This Star Trek, The Next Generation Season 5 episode was so good, Patrick Stewart declared it his favorite. Star Trek, The Next Generation TNG had no shortage of brilliant episodes during its 7-season run, but there is one in particular that resonated deeply with fans and the series' star alike. In fact, it was so powerful, so nuanced, and so emotionally riveting that Sir Patrick Stewart, Captain Jean-Luc Picard himself, declared it his favorite episode of the entire show. That episode is none other than Season 5, Episode 25, The Inner Light. Clocking in as one of the most beloved standalone episodes not just of TNG, but in all of Star Trek, The Inner Light showcased the franchise's ability to blend science fiction with profound human storytelling. But what makes this episode so remarkable? Why did Patrick Stewart, known for his Shakespearean gravitas and discerning taste, single it out as his top pick? The answer lies in the unique emotional journey it offered, not just for Picard, but for Stewart as an actor, and the viewers as participants in a deeply affecting tale. A Story Beyond the Stars. Written by Morgan Gendel and Peter Allen Fields, The Inner Light begins with a standard sci-fi setup. The Enterprise encounters a mysterious probe in deep space. Suddenly, it strikes Picard with an energy beam, rendering him unconscious. But instead of waking up in sickbay, Picard finds himself on a strange planet, in a village called Resic, with people who claim he is Kamen, a local iron weaver. Though he initially resists the idea, insisting he's Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the USS Enterprise, Picard gradually assimilates into this new life. Years pass. He marries a woman named Eline, raises children, learns to play the flute, and becomes a pillar of his community. All the while, he is haunted by fleeting memories of a life in the stars that now seems more dream than reality. But in the final moments of the episode, the truth is revealed. The probe contains the preserved memory of an extinct civilization, the Resicans, who launched it into space as a time capsule of their culture, hoping that someone, somewhere, would remember them. The life Picard lived was not a dream, nor was it physically real, but rather a perfect and emotionally real simulation. Picard awakes on the bridge of the Enterprise, having lived decades in just 25 minutes. In his hands, the probe leaves behind a simple gift, the Resican flute. Patrick Stewart's performance. A masterclass in acting, Patrick Stewart has delivered countless iconic performances as Picard, from the stoic command in Best of Both Worlds to the emotional torment of Chain of Command. But The Inner Light offered him a rare opportunity, a deeply personal, intimate character study that stripped away the veneer of command and plunged into the soul of a man disconnected from everything he thought defined him. In interviews, Stewart has said that The Inner Light gave him the chance to explore facets of Picard that were rarely shown on the bridge. The captain's intellectualism, stoicism, and emotional control had always been central to his character, but this episode allowed him to explore vulnerability, domestic life, and above all, love and loss. The arc of Kamen's life is slow and subtle. It's not an action-packed thrill ride, nor is it driven by typical sci-fi spectacle. Yet Stewart manages to make every moment feel consequential. Whether he's tending a garden, playing a lullaby on his flute, or realizing the inevitability of death and extinction, Stewart brings a quiet dignity and soulfulness to Kamen that lingers long after the credits roll. A reflection on time, memory, and legacy, The Inner Light resonates because it taps into the universal human experience of aging, remembering, and leaving something behind. Star Trek has always dabbled in time travel and alternate realities, but rarely has it used the passage of time to such poetic effect. What does it mean to live a life? Is it defined by the length of time or by the depth of experience? For Picard, living as Kamen wasn't simply a diversion, it became a fundamental part of his psyche. It wasn't a holodeck program or an illusion. It felt real. And because it felt real, it was real to him. When he returns to the Enterprise, everything is the same, but he is different. He has memories of children he raised, a wife he loved, a community he served, and a culture he mourned. And more than anything, he retains the music, the haunting tune he learned in that other life, which he plays alone in his quarters in the episode's final, silent scene. It's one of the most emotional endings in TNG history, and it's entirely devoid of dialogue. The look on Picard's face as he plays the flute says it all. Why Stewart loved it so much? In multiple interviews, Stewart has praised The Inner Light as his favorite TNG episode, largely because of the storytelling risks it took and the emotional depth it offered. He often emphasized how rare it was to see such a personal narrative in the context of a big ensemble science fiction show. For an actor of Stewart's caliber, who came from the Royal Shakespeare Company and had a deep affinity for emotional nuance, The Inner Light was a rare gift. It allowed him to break free of the captain's chair and portray a full life arc from midlife to old age in a single episode. It was, in many ways, a one-man play disguised as a sci-fi episode. Additionally, Stewart's own son, Daniel Stewart, played Cameron's son in the episode, adding another personal layer to the performance. That father-son dynamic added poignancy not just for the viewer, but for Stewart himself. The result was a performance both intensely personal and universally moving. A flute and a legacy. The simple wooden Rusican flute used in the episode became one of the most iconic props in Star Trek history. It reappeared in later episodes like Lessons, further cementing the impact of The Inner Light on Picard's character arc. Even in Star Trek, Picard references to this lost life continue to echo. The weight of memory, legacy, and personal evolution, a theme that The Inner Light so beautifully captured, remains integral to Picard's later story. Fans still talk about the flute. Some have even had replicas made. Others have learned to play the melody themselves. It's not just an object, it's a symbol of how deeply this episode touched people, much like it touched Picard. Awards and fan reception. The Inner Light won the 1993 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation, one of the highest honors in science fiction. That was no small feat for a TV episode, particularly in an era when sci-fi was often overlooked by awards committees. Fans consistently rank The Inner Light among the top episodes of TNG, often putting it in the same tier as The Best of Both Worlds, All Good Things, and Yesterday's Enterprise. It has stood the test of time not because it features space battles or technobabble, but because it tells a human story. In an age where franchises are often driven by spectacle, The Inner Light reminds us that science fiction is at its best when it uses the extraordinary to illuminate the ordinary. A quiet rebellion in a loud genre. What makes The Inner Light so daring is its stillness. In a genre that so often leans on action, big reveals, and galactic stakes, this episode focuses on the smallest things: gardening, family meals, lullabies, and community festivals. It's about the beauty of simplicity and the tragedy of time's relentless passage. Yet in doing so, it tells one of the most epic stories TNG ever attempted. The idea of living a whole other life and returning to your own is haunting. It's the kind of storytelling that doesn't just entertain, it changes the character, and through him, the audience. A final reflection: what if it was real? One of the lasting impressions of The Inner Light is the question it leaves viewers with. If you lived another life in your dreams, an entire lifetime complete with love, loss, and meaning, would it matter if it wasn't real? Picard never answers that question explicitly. But his playing of the flute, his quiet introspection, and his changed demeanor suggest that the answer is yes.